On this episode of One-on-One, well, we're going to have a little fun today. We have Coach Tim Rebowe, the head coach of the Nicholls State University Colonels, and quite an interesting fella. Worked his way up to the coaching profession. He'll be our guest tonight on One-on-One. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer.
No law degree, no amount of experience can supersede the compassion that our firm gives to its clients.
One of the secrets is to always know your case better than your opposing counsel knows his or her case.
We try to carry those values that we've learned at home into the practice of law, and every client that comes into our door will get the benefit of all four lawyers collaborating on their case.
I'm Mary Riviere, and when you come through our doors at Waits and Downer, you're part of our family.
As promised, our guest tonight, Coach Tim Rebowe. Coach, how you doing?
Man, good. Thanks for having me. I feel like making it on this show, maybe I've arrived. Some of the guests you've had on here, quite a lineup.
Well, you come in the studio, they put a little makeup on, you're looking sharp.
Yeah, thank you. Can you do something to darken the hair up a little bit?
I don't know, you're looking pretty distinguished nowadays. So let me ask you, you know, I've been knowing you for a long time, and I always see people where they end up. It's not where they started. Where you start sometimes, you look at somebody and you go, boy, they sure made a name for themselves. And sometimes they had a hard road, sometimes they didn't. But it's interesting to find out where they all started. When did it all start for you? What's the earliest years that you can remember?
Well, if you start thinking back to when growing up, and sports has always been a part of my life, and then it would have to be in the 70s, and coming to Nicholls and coming to the football games with my dad, right, and watching my brother Rusty play. You know, I was in junior high. He was making a name for himself here at Nicholls, and I can remember for 4 years coming here on Saturdays, and I think that kind of started the whole Tim Rebowe in Thibodaux Nicholls thing. Right.
You know, and I remember your brother, Rusty Rebowe, household name in this area. When you thought of Nicholls, you can't think of Nicholls without thinking of Rusty Rebowe, and without thinking, for that matter, went to the Saints, did a few things, just a great athlete, but he wasn't supposed to be that great. He wasn't that big. He must have had a lot of heart. Did you get a lot of that from him watching him?
Well, I know this, you know, now being in the business, he didn't have the measurables, you know, the things that they look for. And we joke about it today that, you know, if he had to go to these combines and these camps, you know, he might not get looked at. But you can't put a measurement on that, on how a guy loves to play the game. And he still holds the tackle record at Nicholls that I think will never be broken. It's just amazing some of the things that he did. And he talked about his years and how it shaped him to what he is today. So he had a pretty good career. Now he's coming back. I'm glad to have him back involved, and he's probably my #1 fan.
There you go. When you were starting to get acclimated at Nicholls and you got the head coaching job, how much pressure, if any, was there knowing that my brother sort of blazed the trail over here? Now I'm the head coach. Did you put any pressure on yourself?
I don't think you put the pressure from that standpoint. You know, me coming back here as the head coach, I knew a lot about the place. You know, being after coming here, then being an assistant here and coaching in the state my whole career, I kind of knew some of the things that was happening in Thibodaux. I felt like the program had been down. I think we kind of looked at it as, you know, the big thing is there's only one way to go is to go up. So I knew if we did some of the things we believed in, that we can have some success.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
The person who's been catastrophically injured is the one who needs experienced help.
My grandfather was 100% about compassion for the client, and so am I.
There's a real person in front of you facing serious trouble right there and then. They could be losing their home, losing their car.
Helping people, fighting for people. Money can't buy that.
I'm Joseph Waits III, and when you come through our doors, you are part of our family.
I remember you being on the bus. I think it was with Coach Barbier was the coach. And y'all had some success in those years. How does success breed success? Because not all Nichols coaches had success. You were part of a successful program. That probably sat in the back of your head quite a bit, didn't it?
Well, I think part of the success is you have to go through some failures. And when you look at when we first came here as a staff, they thought they had a pretty good team coming back in. Coach Rhodes had just left the program, and Darren had taken it over. I was coming from a successful program at Destrehan High School. He was coming from Hornville High School. And we thought we could do some good things here. And boy, lo and behold, that first year we go 0-11. Right. And so the next year we have a big turnaround. We go 8-3 and go to the playoffs. And it was at that time it was one of the biggest turnarounds in the history of college football. So I think anywhere you go, Martin, you take the things that you learn, and you take some of the good things from people, and you also some of the bad things that you know you don't want to do as a coach, and you got to blend that all together.
But just like a coach, you remember that 0-11 season, and I forgot about it because I remember 8-3 when they went to the playoff game in the frigid cold, and I forgot all about the 0-11. A coach never forgets that, does he?
No, you never forget. That's what I'm saying. That's where you learn probably a lot of your successes is from those times and failures. We go the next year. We start recruiting a few more of our players. We get a transfer here, there, and there, and it can change the whole makeup of your team.
Where'd you get your work ethic? I know we were talking before the show, and your dad was from the river region, worked in the plants and that type of thing. Did that help sort of shape who you were? Where'd you get your toughness from?
I think growing up in my family and my older brothers and my sisters and the way they worked, and then watching my dad a little bit. But then also when I got into high school, I think athletics taught me a lot of that. And I had a couple good coaches who taught me how to be disciplined and how to work. And when I go back to think about my high school coach, who I ended up going to work for, who's still a mentor to me today, is Chipper Simon. And he was so successful as a coach. I took over for him. I'll never forget this day. He says, "Hey, I'm moving up. I want you to be the head coach at Destrehan." I was like, "Coach, I'm not ready." And he says, "Well, if you wait till you're ready, you'll never be." Yeah. But he taught me about how to be disciplined, how to be organized, and that all the little things were important that mattered. And then you go along the way and you can go start naming some other coaches' things. But just watching people in my family, I know my brother-in-law, Bubby, how hard he worked and some of the things that he taught me along the way too.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits & Downer Law Firm.
No law degree, no amount of experience can supersede the compassion that our firm gives to its clients.
One of the secrets is to always know your case better than your opposing counsel knows his or her case.
We try to carry those values that we've learned at home into the practice of law, and every client that comes into our door will get the benefit of all 4 lawyers collaborating on their case.
Waits & Downer, when you walk in our door, you're part of our family.
Isn't it funny how you sort of watch your coaches, and especially the ones that are very successful, and you sort of mimic them a little bit. And you change it up a little bit to become yourself, but you always take little parts of what they taught you and you plug it in. Do you find yourself doing that?
I think constantly. We always talk about that. You got to take some of the good and take some of the bad, but you have to put your own twist on it. And we talk about that and I tell the young coaches, not that I'm so old and unwise, But I tell the young coaches all the time, you have to be yourself. You have to coach to your personality. I think as a head coach, the same thing. I've learned a lot from some people in the right way to do things. I learned from Ricky Bussell. I learned from Bobby Kiesler, who was my head coach in Monroe. Mark Hudspeth taught me so much thing about motivation when I was there in Lafayette with the Cajuns. So you take so many things and you learn, but you still have to be you, and you have to put your own twist on it.
You know, growing up around, and I remember you telling me that your mom had passed away early. Did that give you some sort of, I guess, independence early, that maybe you had to grow up a little faster and get a little tougher, faster, and sort of make your own name for yourself?
I think so. It taught you how to survive a little bit. Now, I was 9 years old at the time, so I mean, I wasn't totally on my own surviving, but I had a lot of good people. The Webbers, who I grew up with, who is my family today. I mean, so many good people. They're my brothers and sisters, and my mom, Miss Deanna. So those things, they taught me along the way. They shaped me along the way. But I also try to tell young people today that no matter what the situation is, you got to make the best of it. And everybody's situation is different, but we can all move and learn from it.
The Tim Rebowe that I know has a great sense of humor. You're not always serious. Now, when you're in a football game, you're pretty serious. And I know that when we're around you on the sidelines or close by, you don't get by. You let you coach. And most smart people will let the coach during the game. But the other side of you got a good sense of humor. When did you develop that? And when did you realize, hey, I'm a fun kind of guy. I like to have a little fun too.
I don't know. Don't ask some of the assistants right now as we're getting ready to go to camp if I'm a fun type of guy. But no, again, I think it's just being who you are. I learned that in the recruiting over the years. You know, that you have to go out, and I always found myself as a people person, I would think. So I like to enjoy other things. I think there is more than just football. There's other parts that we can do. We can enjoy stuff outside. And I want my coaches to do that. I want my young coaches to do that and go enjoy their family and get away from the football side of it when we can. But we do like to have a good time.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
The person who's been catastrophically injured is the one who needs experienced help.
My grandfather was 100% about compassion for the client, and so am I.
There's a real person in front of you facing serious trouble right there and then. They could be losing their home, losing their car.
Helping people, fighting for people. Money can't buy that.
I'm David Pelican. When you walk through our doors, you're part of our family.
You know, there's a point in time when you decide to be a coach. You don't just become a coach. You had to have played a few sports. I don't know anybody really coaching that's never picked up a baseball or a football or something of that nature. Growing up, what was your favorite sport?
I was a baseball player, actually. I mean, I loved football, but I played baseball. And those were the two sports I played in high school. I dabbled and played a little baseball in college for a year. So people say, well, how did you end up in football? You know, because when I was the head baseball coach and an assistant football coach, and then just turned towards football a little bit later on. So, but I knew when I was going to college, and I went back to my high school and started working. They didn't have the CECP at the time, but I used to go and scout for my high school. And I knew at the time that I wanted to be a coach, and that's the direction that I went. I don't know what I'd be doing today. I know a lot of people say that. What would you do if you wasn't a coach? I have no idea. I mean, I've been doing it for 30-something years, my whole life.
But it's funny you mention that, because I remember when we played in high school, our baseball coaches were scouting for the football coaches. You did what you had to do. I mean, it wasn't 50 coaches around where you could sort of give everybody a role. Everybody had to do everything, didn't they?
Yeah, and then once you get into that, like I knew what I wanted to do. I'd come home on Fridays from college, I'd go back my high school.
Right.
I knew I wanted to be around that. I want to be in that atmosphere. I want to be around those players, that camaraderie. There's nothing like it. And so that I took my turn in that direction.
You know, but when you think of coaching, I don't think it's just X's and O's. I look at the person and say, how do they get the most out of their player? You seem to be able to do that. Now, whether you learn that from someone or it's innately in you, where do you think you got that from? They play for you.
I think that's a big part of it. The motivation part is in today. I mean, kids have so many choices and so many schools they can go to, so many things, but I tell our coaches all the time, you have to get the players to play for you. I mean, that is a big part. Look, there's a million coaches out there that's great at X's and O's.
Right.
There's other coaches that's good at recruiting. There's other coaches. So we have to put together a good staff of guys who can blend it and do it all together. So there's not just one thing. Look, the X's and O's are a big part of it. A little bit of athletic talent has a lot to do with it also. But it's the total. The coach today has to be so much more than just an X's and O's guys, because there's so many things you deal with and you have to deal with on a daily basis.
When did yours came later? I think you just alluded to it. You know, when I talk to Coach Orgeron or anybody, at a certain age, they know this is what I want to be. Some people at 11 years old know I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an attorney, or some women know I want to be a nurse. Around what age was it that you said, I'm coaching?
I think it was probably in my teenage years. I knew I wanted to be involved in athletics. I knew I wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to be around young people. And then and I say young people, I want to make a difference in some people's lives and develop them. But I think somewhere around the 12, 13, 14-year-old, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be involved in it.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
The person who's been catastrophically injured is the one who needs experienced help.
My grandfather was 100% about compassion for the client, and so am I.
There's a real person in front of you facing serious trouble right there and then. They could be losing their home, losing their car.
Helping people, fighting for people. Money can't buy that.
Waits and Downer. When you walk in our door, you're part of our family.
You're starting to gear up and get ready right around the corner. I know Nichols, if you look historically over the years, has had his challenges bringing people to the game, getting people to come. Y'all lit the fuse again, but you're doing different things to light it. Y'all got a big event coming up, don't you?
Yeah, again, I hit it earlier about the great community and the people, and I think having a little success, everybody's coming back. The tailgating has been fantastic. It's now an event people are talking about, you know, coming to one of the Nichols games, that they love it. But I tell the players that all the time, Martin, if you have a little success on the field, if you put a product on the field, they will come to see you. And we work hard about putting our brand out there, about who we want to be. And our players, you know, have kind of embraced that and done it. But always trying to tweak things and do things. We got an event coming up on August the 18th, our Huddle Up Club, which is anybody can become a member of it. It's a big membership drive for us. And on August the 18th, we're having the Ultimate Fan Experience. And it'll be at Guidry Stadium. We're having a cook-off. So you can come tailgate and show your favorite things that you cook, whether it's in a pot, or you're going to fry it, or you're grilling. There's 3 categories. So we have a cook-off. We're going to have a 5K race at 5 o'clock that afternoon. And it's going to be finished on the 50. So guys will be able to finish their race and have an event. And at 6:30, we're going to have our final scrimmage of the year. So we combining it all. It's going to be a great experience. Also, our teams, our other teams will be out there. Our cross-country team will be out there, our volleyball team, and our soccer team. It'll be like fan day. So we try to just want people to come out, enjoy, and having a good atmosphere.
This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.